Hi, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in the live chat. I appreciate it. Hopefully people could make it today. We are focusing back on Dylan Rounds. As I said, it's been a little bit fragmented recently, but that's because of events going on and working around it so people don't miss out, right? So yeah, with Dylan Rounds today, we're going to look back at the map analysis of the 65 miles covered in Dylan's truck on starting from Friday. Okay, now it's been changed up slightly, and the reason why is because the 65 miles described by Candice should have begun from filling, the truck up and then returning it back to Lucin, and then whatever happens after that. I included the journey of going there to refuel and then counting the rest of the distance on. That was incorrect. So we need to take a look back, and it does open up more space for interpretation and alternative routes and possible directions the person could have gone in, the suspect driving Dylan's truck at the time. Okay, so hopefully you're here. You can share your thoughts, opinions, reactions down below in the live chat as we go along, and you can talk about any other random stuff in between. I'd say people have been on good behaviour recently. We've not seen as much dodginess, but I think that can tie in with a later point, what I'm going to refer to. Now, as you can see, one of the gorillas is back, and so are some of the other minions. We can get into that as well as another later point, but with him being here, this is a good sign, okay? So what I want to start off with first is almost like rhetorical questions which I'll ask and then I'll try and answer as well. Sounds a bit weird, that, but just my style. But you can answer them. You can answer some of these questions down below in the live chat. Now, it's to like start a discussion, a talking point around certain things within the case of Dylan. What's important, what's not, what will happen next, those type of questions, okay? And I know people could say, well, shouldn't these questions be aimed, directed at somebody else or in some kind of interview or passed on? Well, yeah, but these questions I've come up with on the spot, so I don't know if they are good or not, so it's worth just testing them now. And if they are good, then they could be shared on later, or if people finish watching this video and then goes on to another chat another day, you could share those questions or raise them, because sometimes one of those things where when it comes to questions within a case, questions around someone, a suspect, family, you need a little bit of noise behind the question in the first place, because you could slip a question into a live chat such as on no thanks, and Candice clearly does not respond to it because it doesn't seem that important. But if enough people brought up that same question, repeated it, kept talking about it over and over again, there's a chance that she may answer it in the end just to stop all the nagging. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like a petition. Listing certain questions, indirectly, naturally doing a petition to then spread the word about these questions, and then they might actually be used someday. Does that make sense? And also, some of these questions may have been already asked, so they might be pointless. That's why I just want to run it through in this video, okay? So, the first question I have, the bunkers. One or many? Why search for them? That's my first question. It can branch off different questions from that, Whose bunkers? Where are they? What's the importance of them? Is it associated, tied in with finding Dylan, finding evidence, or is it just for the sake of finding where they are because it's a mystery within itself, right? No harm in that. When it came to the Kenny Veach case, which is still ongoing to this day, yeah, People have been searching for Kenny. Other people have been searching for the M cave. Both are a mystery, both are unsolved, but they do branch off in different ways. Though, if you're searching for one, you may come across the other. If you're trying to find Kenny, he may well be at the M cave, let's just say. Okay, that was one of the original thoughts back in the past before certain progress was made, right? Or if you're looking for the M cave, you might indirectly stumble across Kenny, who might be inside, like that. So if you apply it to the Dylan Rounds case, you're just searching for bunkers. Kurt's bunker, Jim Brenner's bunker, in the mountains, let's say, Montello. You find it, you go inside, and then there's Dylan chained up. You know what I'm saying? That's how it could indirectly happen. And the reason why is because a bunker, if it's not been found yet, it must be kind of secretive, well concealed, maybe, unheard of. People don't know where it is. So it'd be a good place to hide someone or evidence, right? So that's like the first question. Now, we can go in a bit deeper. I'll carry on talking. You can share your thoughts in the live chat right now about the whole bunkers. I think I might as well do a poll now, because I know recently there's been a lack of polls. Christy will be slightly saddened by that. Indiana may be howling due to the fact that there's been more pole dancing visits than actual polls in the chat, but I'll make up for it now, don't we? So, do you think bunkers in general, whether it's Kurt's, whether it's Brenner's or somebody else's out there, do you think bunkers are important in some way or another within the Dylan Rounds case? Do you think it's important? Helpful? A bit of a loose poll, because there's many questions, as I said, that can branch off from them, right? Bunkers in general, the actual discussion and deep focus has not been concentrated on that point within the case. There's been brief spells where people have been looking for them, mainly Ty and Lance. I think it's really only Ty and Lance that have been looking for them. If Ty Corbin is in the chat right now, or if someone in the chat right now can get a hold of Ty Corbin, if he can come along, the question I put towards Ty is, are there bunkers out there, and do you think they're necessary and worth looking for? Because they may hold something within. What's your thoughts about that? Because people have said, there's no bunkers out there. They don't exist. No one's found it. It's a lie. Some people have said, oh, because they're underground. There's like a secret door or something. And other people are saying, they're in the mountains. I think some other people were saying, oh, it's just a rumour. It means nothing. I don't know. I mean, whilst the searches have gone on, Bald Eagle Mountain, they've not found, any bunkers there. Heavy D made a few references when looking in some of the mine shafts, saying, oh, this looks like the type of area for someone who might be trying to construct a bunker. But that's all that was said there. My actual thoughts about this is, I don't think directly these bunkers will lead to finding Dylan, but maybe there might be bits of evidence not quite tied with Dylan, but maybe another case or a previous crime, an ongoing crime, like it is a stockpile of weapons, right? I know Brenner's already got gun charges or a gun charge, right, and being a felon, and that's why he's been arrested. Same applies to Chase Venstra. But there might be other weapons or maybe drugs stashed in a bunker somewhere. But where would they be? Lucin or Montello, Nevada? I would say probably more likely Montello, Nevada. That's where there's more population, more activity going on. You compare it to Lucin, it's very flat, more flatland, more vast. You got the lakes, dried up ones, ponds. The mountainous points are much further on, right? Out of reach. Really, the closest like mountains would be kind of north of the grain shed, but then that's encroaching onto other farmland, which is more established. The only other place would be the border where the mountains are, which go all the way down like a spine, and on the Lucin side, so Patterson Pass, Governor's Spring, where Lance was looking in recent time. That's the only other place I could think of where the bunkers could be at, or bunker, which most likely would be Jim Brenner's. You know, if Jim Brenner is known to go on the back roads of Lucin, those back roads can lead to the mountainous part and roads that can cross over into Montello, Nevada. So, you know, maybe it's worth searching about there to see if anything does show up. I mean, when we were looking at Pilot Peak in the past, right, and we saw those hikers going up there, and you saw all the stones scattered about, I was looking around and I couldn't really see anything odd, though at a certain altitude when looking at like, I don't know if it was a rock wall or it was just like stones, slabs stepped on top of one another. It was almost like a little letterbox opening, a gap where it was dark and it looked like it went in. I don't know if that was a mine shaft, a cave, or some kind of concealed bunker, but even if it was, it's not accessible by a car, so it can't be Brenner's, right? If there is a bunker somewhere, then it has to be accessible for someone like Brenner, someone like Kurt, preferably a vehicle. They're not going to hike all the way up to a steep point, a dangerous terrain, just to hide something. Not likely. Now, additional question. Are people still looking for the bunkers? So, Ty Corbin, Lance, Arizona Traveller, anyone else went out there? Are you still searching for the bunkers? Are they in the back of your mind? Or has it been cleared off the list? It's no longer important. What are your thoughts about that, right? Because I know I could do a video myself dedicated to bunkers, but I've not seen any photos, there's no footage, you know, no timestamps, nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? When it came to the Kenny Veach case, that was searching about, okay? Looking through the footage, some people already left timestamps, so it was easier to refer back to and quicker. And that's why I always said shout out to them, because I didn't find everything, other people did as well, right? Yeah, just being honest. So that's not seemed to have happened with the Dylan Rounds search videos, right? The Dylan Rounds search videos have been a bit more thorough and have detected more, saying, oh, there's a bone there, there's a bag down there, right? As a viewer, you wouldn't have seen that yourself because it was that fast, but the person driving or person in the passenger seat, like Lance, noticed it immediately. So it's almost like, whereas in the past with hikers looking for Kenny, they could only see so much and then it was down to reviewing the footage afterwards from the viewers. This time round, it kind of seems to be the reverse way around. The searchers seem to pick up and see things quicker than maybe the viewers, or just about everything is covered within the search videos, where they're looking at. You know what I'm saying? Like, just a brief question. When you, like people in the chat right now, when you've watched search videos of Dylan and you've been looking through, whilst the camera's been panning around and you've been looking at the ground or the surrounding area, have you ever noticed anything strange, anything interesting within one of those search videos which no one else spotted? Has that happened to you? Anything. It could be anything. Leave a comment down below, because it could be something, you never know. Because there's a lot of observant people within the Kenny Veach case. Even the smallest of details, the smallest of movement, like, which most of the time would be impossible to see, and yet someone managed to see it, pick up on it, and it's like, whoa, you know. So has that happened within the Dylan Rounds case or not? That's just a little side question, okay? So that's the first question, okay? That was the first one. We move on to the second one. Will there be any news updates before Christmas? Whether that be on the Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page, on No Thanks channel, or the East Idaho News channel. I feel that there could be, and maybe only one. I don't know the exact timing. When events are upcoming, that's when interviews have occurred, just before them. So like before Dylan's 20th birthday, Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds went on the East Idaho News channel and did an interview there. You remember? So with it being Thanksgiving recently, would you have expected an interview just before that? Maybe not. Maybe it was difficult, you know, events going on, people traveling about, meeting with family or whatever. Could have been hard as well. But after that, before Christmas in December, right? Do you think there'll be any interviews sometime in December? If there was, I feel like it's either going to be on, well, how do I word it? I feel that there could be a small update on the Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page. It could be like a link to say, hey, look, we're going to be appearing live on this person's channel soon. Make sure to tag along and watch. That's how I think it would follow up with then like a short interview or maybe some kind of update on Doug's channel, right? And if not that, on the East Idaho News channel, which is kind of like recollecting all that's been said in the last month or so and just putting it all into one interview, whilst Ned Eaton asked the straight questions to the point. And then maybe a few extra points might be added in, saying something like, yes, we're going to go back in spring or so and, you know, continue on searching. That's the order I think that will happen. Do I feel there'll be anything groundbreaking? No, unless it's kept a secret, right? Okay. I still think there'll be some kind of update before Christmas in some way. Okay. Leave your thoughts down below. We can do another poll right now. Hopefully the polls aren't too close to one another. Do you feel there will be some kind of update by Candice Cooley before Christmas about Dylan Rounds' case? Let me know. Third question. If Dylan has not been found before January and going into January, what happens to the court case with Brenna? Is it delayed again? I mean, it has been delayed a fair bit now. That's probably the only good thing that's happened, right? The more you delay it, the longer it provides a longer window opening to continue trying to search for Dylan and build the case and obviously find the remains to really nail it home and get the justice for Dylan. Because I'm not good with the court stuff, but if Brenna went to court with the gun charge or gun charges and then he received a certain sentence whilst he's serving his time in prison, when that happens, let's say it happened now, if Dylan was found in February, let's say, what happens then? Is Brenna called back up into court for a new trial? How does it work? Because I've heard stuff in the past where during certain court cases, if certain evidence isn't found within that period of time, then it either becomes invalid and it can't be associated or tied back to that original court case. A new one has to be set up or something. I have roughly heard about that before. So the original court case was, when was it now? Was it September the 24th? Was it that? Then pushed back to October and then November and then just pushed way into January, which makes sense because when you get to December, getting near to Christmas, things get a bit hectic, a bit busy, or certain things aren't as active. So I can understand that jump, but you can see like how many months it's been delayed by, right? Now you could say indirectly that's actually a good thing, aside from, you know, giving more time and opportunities for Candice, Cruz and Justin, whoever, to keep on searching, despite the weather, of course. It also may indirectly have some kind of psychological effect on Brenner in between, making him wait, making him sweat, the uncertainty. Unless he's very comfortable where he's at right now in that jail, he's being fed, he's being looked after, then it might seem like paradise for him. But if he was feeling negative, or the environment, some factor going on in a place was impacting him badly, you know, the longer he's in there for, he might eventually confess himself, because he's like, oh, you know, I can't spend any longer in here, I just want to get out, or I just want to move on, I just want to get over and done with, or I'll confess, you know, something like that. So just reiterate the original question: if Dylan has not been found leading into January, does the court case of Brenner's get delayed once again? Or will it get to a certain point where they can't delay it anymore, and then they just got to go on with the proceedings, and then whatever happens, happens then? And as well, the only other additional question I've got to ask, okay? Brenner is still in Weber County Jail, but not in prison. He's awaiting a court date, right? Is that the one in January? And also, the question I ask you, when Brenner appears in court, is he appearing in court for both the gun charge and the disappearance of Dylan Rounds at the same time? Or will they be separate court cases and court dates? How does that work? I wouldn't know. Okay, although I might have watched nearly every live stream of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard when it went on for like several weeks, you know, I've not become an expert, okay? The only thing I've become an expert in is remembering key lines like, my dog stepped on a bee. I can't do the weird facial expressions by Amber. It's like I don't know, I'm not even going to do it because it's a bit weird to do the facial expressions. It's kind of embarrassing. But yeah, just off subject. Well, I never know how to word it because it will always be interpreted as a bad thing, that if you say the word fun, but I don't know how else to use it. Did you find the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case fun to watch day after day? I found it kind of fun, just briefly watching along, and then ongoing the next day, and then the next day, seeing what happens next. You know, there was like funny moments as well. There was compilations made too. It was funny, right? Did you think the same way or not? But yeah, that aside, let's move on to the fourth question. I've seen Lance has changed his titles in his videos, just recent, okay? Does that have any significance? I don't know, you know, originally it was titled Searching for Dylan Rounds, right? And then kind of recent time it was Searching for Dylan Rounds and Susan Powell. And now it's just called Searching for Missing People. I don't know if that was an on-the-spot decision. I don't know if it's a method to try and diffuse things, reduce the heat level, so he can continue exploring, searching for Dylan, or maybe someone else, without the title attracting the wrong type of people. You know what I'm saying? And that can be explained a bit more. Well, it can be kind of explained now. Maybe the chat has been on better behaviour recently because some of my videos have been insignificant in terms of coverage, the title, the theme, the topic, you know what I'm saying? Whereas like a week or two ago, or even before that, if I was consecutively uploading Dylan Rounds case video, a new finding, a new observation, a new theory, this or that. It brought in everyone, right? But then it brought in, regular people or just people specifically interested in the Dylan Rounds case, good and bad people, right? And you saw it in the chat. Some people called them rats, other people call them mice, and then everything else in between, right? But then the moment I uploaded a video, not even titled Dylan Rounds, it went from like about 55 to 100 people watching to about 10 to 23 people watching live. And then like the views as well. Instead of 1,000 to 2,000 views, it went down to 144 to 368. But that's to be expected, because if you're suddenly covering a different topic or theme, it's going to filter out a lot of people, right? And even indirectly, you'll see it with channels like the person called Diva. I don't know if YouTube censors certain words if they're supposedly interpreted as inappropriate words. I don't know. But then again, when you think of it, some of the dodgy stuff I've said, I guess it doesn't really matter. So the user Diva Puss, who appears here and there, was on Jim Terry's channel at one point, but no longer since because she's been dropped. But she's saying she just wants a break from it. So differing stories, right? One's true and one's probably a lie, right? But she's made references to like salty pancakes, Diva Puss, or Jim Terry saying, oh, look at these people, Pancakes have got like 3,000 plus subscribers, but only 50 people are watching. Or Jim Terry's got 4,400 subscribers, but only 58 people are watching. But then, oh, look at my girl, Bella V, who's got 250 subscribers and like over 100 people watching. Oh, look at the ratios, like that. I don't know why I brought that up, to be honest. But you see the ratio changes. But like, even with more established YouTube channels, right? When you see some channels which have over 1 million subscribers, or like 450,000 subscribers plus, and then you look at their views, their videos, and they've got about 11k views, and it's like, how can a channel have over 1 million subscribers and only 11,000 people bother watching? Doesn't really make much sense. Sounds really bad. Now, in my experience, my ratio has been reasonable, but it's starting to go worse now. But it's not like how you'd expect. It's more inevitable. Okay, and I can explain. So when I started covering mystery videos, okay, let me just do a quick mark on here before I end up forgetting where I'm at, because you know what my memory is like. It's an absolute fucking disaster at times. There we go. Just do it from there, just so I don't forget. When I was covering the Kenny Veach case at the start, back at the start of 2020, how many subscribers did I have? I had about 162, right? 162. And now I'm at 7.6k. So it has gone up reasonably well. It's been slow but steady but consistent and mainly positive, both in the stats but also people as well, most definitely. Okay. So with that in mind, if I had a very low subscriber count but I'm uploading videos which receive a fair amount of views relevant to me at the time, the ratio is I'm getting more views than what I have as subscribers. So that is kind of like more successful, right? You got 160 subscribers and you get 10,000 views on a video, right? You could say, oh, well, not enough people are subscribed. But if it's the beginning, people have just discovered you. And that's the effect that video has, leading to that many views. You've done something right, okay? But with those views, it reaches a certain average, right? Maybe 500 views to 800 per video or so, or maybe a little bit higher. But then that remains that average of views and people that return back consecutively, consistently. And whilst the average remains, the subscriber count slowly ticks away and goes up and up and up. Yes, it can go completely backwards, like the Shack Lady, and sometimes it can halt. But for me, it's constantly gone up slowly, right? Up to the point where it surpasses, the subscriber count surpasses the number of average views per video, right? So where I might have been getting 500 to 800 views per video, and still kind of now, the subscriber count has surpassed that and gone to 1,000 subscribers, and then 2,000, 3,000, and now like 6,000 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So then the ratio starts to change, and then it looks worse than what it originally was. And could that be explained with the same with bigger YouTube channels which have the 400,000 plus people? Kind of. Sometimes it's because they've done something bad, they've been exposed, people have lost interest in them, some kind of scandal going on, people being called out, you know, stuff like that. Like, if you had an established channel at one point which was popular, like, how do you say his name? Onision, okay? Had 1 million subscribers, I think still does, but how many views does he get on his videos? 4,000, 8,000 views. That's a big decline, right? So many followers, so little views. People are not consistently watching, keeping up, or returning back. But that was because of bad things going on, you know, being exposed supposedly for doing bad things, right? Inappropriate stuff. So then obviously people lost interest in that way. And then other times people just lose interest because it's like, well, moved on to other things, which is a natural thing. So that's what I just wanted to refer back to. Now, let's return back to the other questions. Hopefully I didn't leave on a cliffhanger there. You know, sometimes you ask too many questions, you end up not answering all of them. So, a bit of a problem that, but yeah, apologies for that. So, the 5th question, whether Lance is here or Ty, whether it applies to both or not. Will peace ever be made between Candice Cooley and Lance Kelly? Do you think that will ever happen? We'll do a poll right now, okay? Just title the poll as, will there ever be peace between Candice and Lance, right? With Dylan had that falling out with Don Hateley in the past 6 weeks before going missing. Don got fired in the end. But Candice Cooley said they would patch up in the end because of the crop growth and developments like that. How could it work with Candice and Lance? Well, it's a far-fetched one, but if Lance was able to find Dylan Rounds, or maybe a new important lead, which eventually led on to finding Dylan or some kind of additional stuff, and did it in the correct manner, as how Candice Cooley would label it, then maybe Candice Cooley would be a bit more appreciative of Lance. Do you think? But I think it's kind of demanding. Like, you find a bag of bones, like how they've done, and if it turned out to be of Dylan, I don't think Candice Cooley would be even happy then. I think what you'd have to do, what Lance would have to do, is actually directly come across Dylan, not do or touch anything, directly contact Candice and the police, some kind of authority, touch absolutely nothing, not even record it on camera or upload it, at least, until when allowed to. And just maybe then Candice Cooley will say something positive. You know, it seems a bit far-fetched, but, you know, if Lance and someone like Ty can go out there nearly every single day, or at least in the past, very consistent, very frequent, and that annoys Candice, then it must be a big ask, high demands to please her, right? If you agree, you know, let me know down below. But I think there'll only be peace made. Peace will only be made when there's justice for Dylan. So if there's old grudges, Candice Cooley seems like the person not to hold certain grudges. Like, if they're below the level of importance of Dylan and they're not directly tied in with Dylan, then they'll probably be forgotten about. You know, like where you might be annoyed with someone, have disagreements, but then it's resolved or something else is resolved and it's like, right, it's fine, it's fine, I don't care. Let's put it in the past, leave it behind. But someone like Box Elder County and people like that, where they've impacted the Dylan Rounds case negatively, dragged it out, delayed it in some way, that is a sort of example where Candice Cooley probably won't forget or forgive and actually carry that on after Dylan has been found and justice has been served. Candice Cooley might follow it up with, I don't know, lawyers maybe, or just spread more awareness to other people in the area and other cases, like how she said she was going to do that like campaign or support other families with missing people. But then the likes of frustrations with maybe Salty Pancakes, Ty, Lance, and those lot, Candice will probably be like, yeah, whatever, let's move on, there's more important things. You know, that's how I see it. That's my prediction, how things would go. Okay, let me know if you agree down below. So the sixth question is, the longer the case goes on, does it become harder to solve? You might be wondering, how? Well, I'm looking at it in different ways. First of all, the longer it goes on, obviously the more likely you're going to find the missing person dead, first of all, which will be harder on the people impacted by it, right? But also, the longer the missing person is out there for, the higher the chances that bones and recovery may become harder to locate and track down. If there is a wildlife out there that would scavenge bones, pull them apart, or just take them away to a nearby cave, shelter, wherever, the bones are going to be spread out, right? First of all, they might be slightly covered with the just natural environment, if there's sand, dirt, and all that. But animals, they can disperse bones. We question that with the Kenny Veach case. The reason why no one has found Kenny, thinking back then, was partially because mountain lions may have killed him, or at least and involved in disposing of Kenny by taking the bones away and going to a cave, right? Could that have happened with Dylan? Well, if Dylan was buried, wherever it may be, if he was buried in the ground or in a side of a wall, and that was by the suspect, what's the likely chances that an animal, wildlife, is going to dig it up, okay? Because if animals don't dig it up and Dylan remains wherever he's at as whole, then really the longer the case goes on for, it doesn't become harder. It might emotionally, but not in terms of solving it. It might become a little bit easier if you've got the time and space to do it and energy, and if like the court is delayed, you know, you narrow it down. You look over here, grid reference, grid square, that's all been searched. What about over this way? That's been searched. Here, that's been searched. Bit of evidence that points more here, bit more evidence that points here. So this must be the center point of where Dylan is at. And you just got to keep looking, going back and forth, right? So it doesn't really become harder. Process of elimination, surely it would become easier. But if Dylan has been scattered about by wildlife, it will become harder, because if it's spread out all over the place, you might come across a bone here or there, or you might only find just one, and then it's like, where are the others? And that was where it becomes harder. It becomes more confusing, right? So you can leave your thoughts down below about that. And also, the longer the case goes on for without a resolve, does it become harder to prove that a suspect is responsible for Dylan's disappearance? Could that be a possibility? Well, at times in life, yeah, that will happen. Though the way it's been talked about, with Boxelder County working in the background, doing their thing, building a case with the evidence they've got, you know, they said it's a fair amount of evidence to say that person is responsible for Dylan's disappearance. That's how it's been worded. So there's some hope at least, but it might not be enough to get the true conviction, right? You know what I'm saying? So there's that to take in mind. Now, the only other possibility, if Brenner disposed of Dylan somewhere completely different, in a different town, city, pushing it across the border elsewhere, then it would become harder, right? I don't know if that, when you find out, probably. If the suspect, like, confessed or briefly confessed, saying, okay, so you've been searching out there for a few months now. Well, you know where I disposed of Dylan? Across the border. Good luck. That leads to new leads, but it becomes harder then because it's yet even more energy, even more time in trying to find Dylan and a completely new area to break down and analyse. So yeah, the longer it goes on for, it can be taxing, both psychologically, physically, okay? There's different ways of looking at that. I don't know if I did a poll already about that point, but I'll do one now if necessary. Do you agree that if the case drags on, it becomes harder to solve? Yes or no? Okay. Now, we move on to the 7th question with Kurt Wadsworth. Will he ever slip up? Is that possible? People have said Kurt Wadsworth has already been drunk multiple times in interviews. Okay. Ellen Berg supposedly was drunk in one of the interviews in the past, and I think it was on Jim Terry's channel. You remember that iconic one? Was it on Jim Terry? Yeah, it has to be. Or was it on Salty Pancakes? Huh. I think it could have been on Salty Pancakes. I'm sure it was. That interview with Ellen. Yeah. Tell me if you remember, right? Remember some of the audio recording? You know, at the time, Julie was laughing hysterically when she watched it. You know, it's pretty wild. Even the voice of Ellen appeared when I was using this gorilla, if you remember. One of the key lines, what Ellen said was, Jim Terry, he's a little prick. But that was referring to a certain body part on a male, right, in terms of sizing and stuff. There's some channels that seem to be very obsessive about, you know, bits and bobs and talking about it quite often. So who knows what goes on elsewhere, but, you know, it's all friendly here. We don't talk about that. We're very innocent and clean as we talk. Isn't that right, Indiana? Isn't that right, Linda? Angels. So, okay. Referring back to Ellen, yes, it was on Salty Pancakes channel in the past, a live stream. It was a public one, visible at the time. I don't think it's up anymore, or it's been privatised or something. And Ellen was going on and on. Jim Terry was being patient for the first time ever, but that was Jim Terry's tactic at the time, to drag things out, to allow Ellen to talk as much as possible in hopes that she may slip up or say the right thing or reveal something of interest. And I think that may have happened in a way, yeah. And Jim Terry supposedly was saying that Ellen Berg was drunk at the time. She was drinking more and more. So the more she drinks, the more drunk she gets, and the higher chances of her revealing the truth about something. And that came out about the time with the casino. Can't remember what state, what city, town, border, wherever. Ellen Berg and Candice Cooley were both together in a casino. And, you know, it's been contested who said what. One person was secretly recording the conversation, the other person wasn't. I think at first it was worded in that interview on Salty Pancakes channel by Ellen that Ellen Berg was the one that secretly recorded the conversation, and she confessed that to Jim Terry. But in recent time, people have worded it as, no, it wasn't her, it was actually Candice Cooley that secretly recorded the conversation, and Ellen was perfectly okay with that. I don't know which way round it was. Do you remember? Do you know? You know, do we do it as a poll? I don't want to do too many polls. It might get a bit too much. Like, this is like really full on. So I'll leave that one out. But yeah, the reason why I just brought that up as an example, that whole thing about Ellen Berg and getting drunk, was someone like Kurt Wadsworth. If Kurt Wadsworth is drunk most of the time, has he built up some kind of resistance against telling the truth? He's got more control over himself. Is that even possible, right? Like, if you get drunk for the first time ever, I wouldn't know. I've never been drunk. Some people may assume that because of being dodgy in videos, but to be honest, I think Glitter Galaxy worded it the best. If I did drink something or do something like that, it'd probably neutralise me and basically make me act normal, which is a bit weird, but could be true, one of those dodgy realities, right? But someone like an amateur getting drunk for the first time, it's a new experience. They might be very wild, not able to control themselves or how they act, their behaviour. They forget what they've done the next day. And during that time of being drunk, they might do all kinds of things, say all kinds of stuff, reveal the truth about something private. But if you've got someone who is regularly drunk, maybe they don't get as drunk, or maybe they can somehow have more composure, hold themselves together whilst being drunk because they're used to being that way. Does that apply to Kurt Wadsworth? Because if it did, then he probably won't slip up or reveal the truth. So if he got drunk enough, high emotions, heat of the moment during a live interview on YouTube, there's a possibility that he might reveal something. And this is the thing. People have said, well, Kurt Wadsworth said this. Kurt Wadsworth said that. Kurt Wadsworth said he had Dylan's key fob in his pocket and it was too big or something to fit in. And it's like, okay, interesting, okay. But then he's changed it or said something else at another point. One person recently, yesterday, I can't remember the username, in the live chat of my live video premiere, highlighted up saying, Samoan, yes, was it Samoan King? Samoan King, the person that raised that point, shout out to them, said, isn't it weird how Kurt Wadsworth in a past interview brought up when drunk, saying, no one's ever going to find Dylan, no one will ever find him. Don't you normally say that when you're the one responsible for it? Or the only alternative would be, the only other type of person that would come out with a line like that is someone who might be a bit emotional, negative, and has a defeatist mentality, right? Which can happen and is normal. But would that happen to Kurt Wadsworth? Do you think Kurt Wadsworth has a defeatist mentality? Or do you think he's responsible in some way? So it's almost like two polls at once, which is a bit weird. I really don't know how I'm going to do this. It's fucking difficult, this. Do a poll right now. Do you think Kurt Wadsworth will ever slip up, reveal the truth? Okay. And do you think Kurt Wadsworth has a defeatist attitude towards Dylan? Or is it because he's involved in the case in some way? And, you know, that's why he's saying, you'll never find him, because only he knows. Let me know what you think down below, right? So yeah, that answers that question, I guess, about the whole slip up. And speaking of slip ups, Candice Cooley as well, she has slipped up at times with switching and changing of information. So if someone like Candice Cooley, who's supposedly innocent, who is described as strong, holding it together, can also slip up, then I know some people would say, well, it's obvious, you know, all the strain, all the stress, all the sadness and emotions and anger, frustration, she's bound to not be at 100% all the time. Yes, I know that. I do know that. But then you could say the same with the suspect or suspects. There'll be a lot of pressure, tension, stress, worry, concern, uncertainty with them, wondering, I wonder if they'll ever find Dylan. God, people are still searching. Look at all these people still around. Oh no, they're getting a bit too close now. Oh, they're getting near. Oh no. And then it builds up within them. It eats at them with time. Whether that be because they kind of suddenly feel guilty now for taking it out on Dylan and they didn't mean to, such as snapping on Dylan. Maybe they might regret that and it'll wear on them psychologically. And or just the knowing that it's ongoing, the search for Dylan, so they can't really rest easy. Got to look over the shoulder, make sure no one gets too close. So that could wear them down as well, emotionally in a way, so they could slip up at some point. So you got to look at it that way as well, okay? Now, let's move on to the next question, the 8th question. Will there ever be a follow-up investigation on Don Hateley and his new living location? Or is that it? Case closed? You know, okay, Dylan is no longer present in Lucin. Brenner is no longer present in Lucin because he's in jail, right? Weber County Jail. Who remains in Lucin now? One person maybe? One random farmer, and that's it? Damn. Makes you think, doesn't it? Wow. Because the population was already low in Lucin. 3 to 4 people, as described by Candice Cooley. There seemed like there was a few properties and areas of use, but maybe it's associated with just 1 or 2 farms, and that's it. Okay? Maybe 2 people still present in Lucin, but not a part of the case. I mean, you still got Ivor Zardowski at the hangar, so I guess he counts as well. So it might be not as empty as you think, but more empty than it was beforehand. But yeah, okay, Don supposedly left his trailer behind. Don's somewhere in Utah. Isn't that not suspicious? Suddenly moving away. Now, did Don move away because Brenner was no longer present? He's lost his friend. Well, you could say that, but then again, the way Don treated Brenner by grassing him up, covering his own back, you know, not exactly loyalty there, despite being long-time friends. So maybe Don moved away not because he missed Brenner, but there was nothing more for him to do there, or he wanted to get away from that place because of what might have happened. Maybe Don felt a little bit uneasy being one of the only few people near Dylan's land, near-ish, knowing what's happened, because if he knows, you don't want to be like remaining there, do you? You know, if you're involved directly or somewhat directly in the disappearance of Dylan, you don't want to be living in that spot where it happened, because it's going to play on your mind. It might even make you confess. It might even break you. So the best thing you can do is get away from the place, but not immediately. If you run away immediately, it's going to make you look suspicious. Though, because of the way this case has been handled and the police presence has died down since, you know, it doesn't seem as suspicious now moving out. But I think people or someone should follow it up on Don and where he's currently living at right now, because I think there is still unfinished business with Don, and it does seem a little bit suspicious him moving on, escaping, you could call it, running away. So, you know, whether you in the chat watch other people's videos on the Dylan Rounds case, or you go on Jim Terry's channel, maybe it's worth spreading the word about the need for further investigation on Don Hateley and his new place of living, make sure to spread that message, because I think it's worth, you know, looking into, right? Now, I'm limited to what I can do because I still don't even know Don Hateley's original coordinates of where he lived in Lucin. So I am limited at this moment in time, right? But if people can pick up on data or find the location of where Don is at right now, providing it's public information, okay? Providing it's public information. If you want to, feel free to let me know about it, and then I will cover a video on it, right? As I said, it needs to be public information so we don't go against any terms of service on YouTube, okay? If you do have an idea of his location, but it's not public, I guess you can share it with me if you wish to privately, but I won't make a video on it, right? That's the only other way of looking at it. But I do think Don needs to be focused on, and there needs to be a follow-up on him, because dodgy activity, I would say, okay? I'll do a poll right now. With Don moving out of Lucin and going elsewhere, does that make him look more suspicious now than if he was to remain where he was living? Answer right now, okay? Next question. Number 9. Oh, it sounded like chills then. Number 9. Okay. Gorilla Jack update. What about it? Well, as you can see, we got the gorilla here. Just give me a second. I just need to find the other ones because they're hiding. We've got the gorilla here, first of all. Oh, fuck's sake. Falling over. I've just knocked everything onto the floor. What a fucking idiot I am. Anyway, we've got the gorilla here, okay? The other gorilla and this gorilla, right? They're in good condition. They're safe. They're secure. You remember they went to Uganda to join with the High Gorilla Council to also meet up with Gorilla Jack to exchange the big banana, hand it over to him, and just develop relations with one another, okay? Bad things happened, and they will be revealed shortly. Though there is kind of a positive outcome as well. So if you want to hear the story about Gorilla Jack, his misfortune, misadventures, and the outcome of him, make sure to stick around for my, I guess, next video where I cover it all, as there was some kind of rough communication in which Gorilla Jack roughly reached out to me. That sounds a bit weird, that. I don't know how to rephrase it. But yes, he communicated with me. So I'll provide an update, okay, shortly. You just put him there for a second. You can have a quick drinks break, but it'll have to be very quick, right? Because I need to set back up because I've dropped everything onto the floor. I don't know, bald patches show up immediately. Probably worse hairstyle than Jim Terry. That says a lot. Oh, why does the paper spaz out? It's just like little bullet points, right? Okay, so yeah, that was just a quick one about Gorilla Jack, okay? Next one, number 10, salty pancakes. The whole thoughts about grooming. 1 minute Salty was accusing someone in the past with Dylan being groomed by, then it moved on to someone else, and then most recently Salty Pancakes is aiming it towards Ed Harshberger, responsible for grooming Dylan. Now I know to some people who may already have a distaste of pancakes in their mouth, not eating him, but you know, just figure of speech, might have a negative outlook on him already. You might just think, oh, here we go again. But in a balanced way of wording it, yes, it's probably ineffective what Pancakes is doing, but at the same time, I can't call him out on that stuff when I do it myself, in terms of looking at different theories and ideas, right? Maybe that's kind of similar to what Pancakes is doing. I don't watch all his videos, so I'm not going to ultimately know. But if Pancakes is looking at one person, then another, and trying to back it up with some kind of reasoning ability, then I guess it's kind of okay, right? Like, look at me. 1 minute I was saying, oh, Brenner is the man, then I'm saying, yeah, but then what about Kurt, briefly? And then, right, we need to go really hard in with Chase Venstre. Oh, it doesn't matter about the alibi. Oh, it doesn't matter about this. Oh, it doesn't matter about that. We look at Chase Venstre. So I've moved about myself, looking at one person to another. At one point, I was very suspicious with Candice Cooley. Then I backed off. Then I looked elsewhere. And then I returned. So it's moving back and forth, mainly down to the fact that it's an ongoing case, open-ended, still a mystery, and with the switching and changing of actual information and facts, you can't help but think and come up with your own alternative ideas. So that's what Pancakes has done himself, even if he might supposedly have a negative reputation anyway, indirectly within the Dylan Rounds case and people, then, you know, it kind of crosses over with one another. So that's just my brief thoughts about that, okay? Number 11. Will there be a final search before Christmas? So you saw my question earlier on about the whole, you know, will there be an update before Christmas? Will there be an interview? You remember that question earlier on? Make sure to look back if you didn't, okay? Now, we tie it in with a similar thing. Will there be a search, an actual physical search? Well, with the way the weather has been, Candice Cooley saying winter came early. Now, if winter comes early, does it end earlier as well? Or does it just simply last longer? Because like with the UK, when the bastard sunshine came in, the bastard heat, it came in earlier. I don't know if it applies this year or the year before. Whenever it was, it came in earlier, but it also lasted longer, which was a pain in the arse, okay? So that applies with the winter too, there in Lucin. Then obviously it's going to derail them and stop them in a way, right? So we'll do a poll shortly, okay? But yeah, that's the way I see it. Like with the cold temperatures, which will affect the K9 unit that can't, you know, be used at the time. Maybe if it's that cold, certain equipment may not work. With the ground being hard frozen, possibly, it's going to be difficult to, I guess, analyse with the drone, the photos, the ground penetrating radar, right? And even just simply digging the ground, that will be very hard as well. Unless there is a spot where there's a warm period, and I'm sure I saw a comment on that recently. I don't know if it was on my channel or someone else's channel saying that there might be a warm period at a point in time where you can go in and dirt. Might be a possibility, but it's one of those things where if it's a last minute change in weather, can you organise and get everyone all together at once? Probably not, because most of these searches have been planned in advance, right? And even with all that planning recently, they still weren't anticipating the winter to come so soon. So it does put things into perspective. So I feel there may be some kind of small scale search before Christmas, but it might be more to do with actually just going down to the farm and paying respect, or just standing there and thinking and reflecting, just because it's getting to Christmas and you know, the odd person's missing, obviously, so it's like reflecting back in a way, and maybe just like scouring, looking around in hopes of finding something, even if there's not much chance. So I'll do a quick poll now. Do you think that there will be another search for Dylan before Christmas or not? Let me know. Now, what next? This ties into the next one, number 12. The next question. Whilst Lance is out there still searching, and maybe his titles and videos have changed since, maybe not as focused on Dylan, but indirectly still searching for Dylan, is it of use? That's the question I put forwards. You know, will there be practical outcome? If Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds, Equisearch, Mob Crew, they did what they did at the time, but they can't keep going back, partially because of the weather and stuff like that, then whilst Lance is still out there searching in that weather, whether it be in Lucin or Montello, is that of any use? Is it still possible? Now, I guess it depends what you're looking for. If you rely on equipment or you rely on senses, like the dog, if weather and changes to the environment impact that stuff negatively, then you can't proceed onwards. Though if you've got a different style, such as going into a mine shaft, going into a cave, kind of like what Lance has done, then it's still doable from the looks of it. You've got the safety ropes, they don't seem to be affected too bad. You don't have any mechanical pulley systems, so it's not going to freeze over or jam in that sense. So you should be okay there. As for a potential cave in, or almost like an avalanche, I don't think that does happen. All you might need is like a little pickaxe, a shovel, just to move some of the snow out the way. But yeah, I think Lance is still able to practically keep searching, right? And we have seen it with, Lance, we've seen it with Alan from Mountain Labs Fortress, we've seen it with Les Nuttall, Scott Nuttall, in the mountains when it's really snowy and bleak, when it could be at its worst, and it was still, somewhat doable. Okay, maybe they weren't all able to meet up at the same time, they might have been divided, which was the case. Scott Nuttall at one point couldn't even drive on up a road in the mountains because he kept slipping down. So there is still dangers, or new dangers added in, aside from the heights and the drops, sliding off, falling off. But I think it's still, somewhat doable, right? The only question I put forwards right now, I don't know if you know, but share your thoughts, is if you've got like a mine shaft within the mountainous area, whether it be on the Lucin side or the Montello side, such as Bald Eagle Mountain, and because of the slopes and it goes higher up when you look further on up, if there is snow, will any of that cause an avalanche at any point? Has there ever been an avalanche in Montello or Lucin near the mountainous part, or is it just simply not possible? And if it's not possible, just when it simply snows, if you get heavy amounts of snow, kind of like how Glitter Galaxy has experienced in New York in recent time, it's been quite extreme. Has it ever been extreme, the snowfall in Montello or Lucin? And if so, has it been that bad that the sheer level and volume of snow has actually descended into a mine shaft and filled it up? What are your thoughts? Or is it too deep a mine shaft that by the time the snow builds, it just melts instantly because of where it's centered? What? I don't know. Do you know about that? I guess maybe if you've got like a shallow mine shaft, and I mean a shallow one, then it probably could fill up quite a bit. I guess you have to take it in mind with like heavy rainfall, certain things will flood, other things won't, because there'll be some kind of drainage, or it's that deep that it just will never fill up to the maximum level. Hence why you may see it with people exploring mine shafts, like exploring abandoned mines and forgotten places, or like with Lance or like Heavy D, where they've gone into a mine shaft and then there's been another drop, another level descended down, but it's completely filled with water, right? And it's still kind of deep down there, right? But the water level has never risen all the way up to the very top, in which you completely submerged, because it probably require an extreme amount of water, right? And if there's also drainage as well elsewhere, then it never will flood or overflow. Though, when it comes to snow, I'm not an expert with this, so people will correct me and might get a little bit bitchy and moany and a bit scientific, but with snow, arguably it's a bit more of a solid, right? It does melt into a liquid, but it's a bit more of a solid. And enough snow and it compacts together, it becomes more solid, right? And if you've got the ice as well, for a certain amount of time, it might cover more than just simply water, okay? But I don't think it would lead to anyone getting snowed in if you were inside of a mine shaft at the time. I'm sure Scott Nuttall, in one of his videos, when he said he couldn't make it with the other people, he was actually staying inside of a nearby cave or something. Well, he was recording inside one and said, oh, I'll stay here the night and see what happens the following day. Are you warmer in a cave than in a car overnight, providing you didn't have the heating on? Or is one more colder than the other? I don't know, but it's just a random thought I remembered of, okay? So we put that aside. Is there anything else going on? Resistance, and this will tie in with what I said, what I said earlier on, okay? Has there been as much resistance recently? No. From my own, personal experience, no, there haven't. No. But that partially ties in with the fact that, one, I've not been as hard hitting with the Dylan Rounds videos recently because it's been a little bit fragmented, as I said, right? So it's not going to attract all of the people like how it normally does, as you know, how I described earlier on. But also more significance, more importance is the fact that there's significantly far less people covering specifically the Dylan Rounds case now, more than ever. In the past, all at once, I would say, you had Lance Kelly emerging along with Ty before they created their own channels individually. Lance Kelly and Ty, we'll call that as two. You had Zav Girl, you had Tyler Feller, you had No Thanks, you had Salty Pancakes emerging. That's 6. You had the Spirit channel, which is still kind of on and off now, and then like a psychic one as well, 2 different types. So that was like 8 people, and some established channels as well, all covering Shack Lady as well. Okay, but every time each creator has walked away, either be by choice or not, things got too much or there wasn't anything left to cover, so they moved on to something else, which is normal and natural, right? Unless you're able to think of different theories and ideas and questions and look back, then maybe you can last longer than others. Ultimately, the type of people that would outlast everyone are the boots on ground physical searchers, because they're the ones with the direct material to even reassess and go back over afterwards, but also they're the ones that are out there, boots on ground, which is considered more important, more of a focus, will attract more people because it's like real time and it's relevant to the place more than if you was just to sit on a bed and talk, right? But because the area is so vast, so many places to cover, so much distance to cover, different like caves, mine shafts, and just the ground itself to walk over and document, both Montello and Lucin, it's endless. There's so much you can cover. And if you go back over places to check back up on if there's been any changes, or if you return to a place you didn't fully get to explore the previous time, then that counts as another video as well. So that's what enables that person to have a long lifespan in terms of coverage of the Dylan Rounds case, right? I mean, on average, when it comes to a missing person case or some kind of mystery story, people tend to make 1 to 2 videos on average, tell the story from start to finish, backstory, leading up to the event, and then missing, cliffhanger, the end, right? Do I do that? No. I don't like doing it all into one video. I can't. That's why I spread it out. And the only way to spread it out is to literally follow on from a case that's pending post-disappearance, trying to regroup stuff and look forwards and see what hasn't been covered, what needs to be recovered, etc., etc. And that applies to the Dylan Rounds case, yes. It applies to the Kenny Veach case and M Cave Mystery, yes. Does it apply to Kylie Rodney? I don't know anymore, because the AWP crew found Kylie Rodney, but then also you got the drama with the AWP crew indirectly with some of the crew members and dodgy stuff going on in the background. But yeah, and then you've got the laundry, and the laundry case, Gabby Petito, still ongoing, I assume. And then I think you got Daniel Robinson as well, ongoing. So, you know, and then Aidan Clune. So there is a lot to do, and there's a lot to cover. Some people can handle it all at once, other people can't. Can I? I could try, but I don't think I would enjoy it as much. And you could say, well, are you supposed to be enjoying covering a missing person case when real people are suffering? You know, that's how it can be interpreted. But in a way, you gotta enjoy what you do, because if you don't enjoy it, then you might not put as much effort in. You might make more mistakes. You might actually cause more trouble than it's worth. So that's why it's an important part in itself. I don't mind looking at the Dylan Rounds case. That's why I've been able to do it for this long. Okay, at times I do feel like, oh, I need to stop. Or like for the past 40 plus weeks, I've had neck and back pain. It wasn't caused through exercise. I was simply sat down, and then randomly the next day I've got pain in my back and neck, and when I look down at a certain angle and it won't go. And it's been like that for all this time. And whilst I've been doing all these videos every day, maybe it's because of posture, maybe it's because times I've been leaning over, bending over the side of the bed. Like if I'm holding the phone when I've done the map ones, that's how I originally did it. Or even just sat up now because I've got no like backrest or anything. I think that's, what do you call it? Increased the pain and stopped any recovery, stopping it from healing or something. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't stop me from doing stuff. I can do weights, I can lift weights. It doesn't hurt there, or it doesn't get any worse. But if I'm in an awkward position, if I'm looking down too long, if I'm bent over, then the pain builds, and then it's there for some time. So whilst I've been doing all these videos on the Dylan Rounds case, it's led to back and neck pain. But when it comes to covering the case, that is more important than neck and back pain, right? So that's why at times I thought maybe I should take a break, or like when it gets to Christmas, take a break. Because I have tested in the past taking a break from doing the weights, hence with some other additional stuff as described on the community tab in the past with certain dodgy things, not dodgy stuff, illness and stuff externally, stopped me from doing the weights and stuff, and also not doing them just to see would it improve the neck or back. No, it didn't. But if I'm in the correct posture long enough, it seems to like reduce it. But then if I'm suddenly in a bad posture shortly afterwards, it comes back or it gets worse. So that seems to be the focus of what causes it, or what makes it worse, or what brings it back. So that's why I need to stop with the videos or something and continue the weights, try and strengthen the neck and shoulders maybe. So that's one of the other reasons for taking a break from YouTube at some point, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's it for most of the questions, okay? The final one, number 14. Where does Don Hateley live, both previously and now? And I think I might mention that a bit earlier on as well. If you know the coordinates, feel free to drop it. And then the final question, the whole whip. Where did it come from? How, and how does it feel whipping left, right and centre? So this is the whip. It was, I slapped myself down. This was upgraded from the past. If you remember, in the past, this whip was a lot smaller and thinner. It disappeared. Gorilla Jack took it off me, but I was left with this larger belt. So it was an upgrade in the end, which is a positive, right? Where did it come from? Let me just stand up so I can check. I think this was initially involved and used within the Dylan Rounds case and community when you started seeing the resistance, people messing about, people causing trouble, and this was used to bring order. Now, with doing so, it was somewhat successful, or at least confused and scared people to the point where they didn't want to act out because they didn't want to see any more of this and the dodgy talking, such as the ASMR voice. You know, you don't want to be hearing this in your ear, or maybe the other ear, because when you hear this voice, it sounds like there are many voices, and if there are many voices, it makes you think, are you schizophrenic, or do you have multiple personality disorder, or maybe you've got both? I don't know. Do you know? I hope you do. Someone must. But yeah, with that, it was used, and it's still used to this day, though maybe it's got different purposes now, and maybe whilst people were running away from it at some point, people are now welcoming it. Oh yes you are, don't deny. So with that, it's become more of a regular occurrence. Now, how do I feel when... Now, move out the way, Gorilla. I nearly sat on you. That's unfortunate. How do I feel when it comes to whipping? So this is an actual question and a Q&A on the spot regarding this one question, and I'll answer it. I don't really feel anything when I do it, partially because I don't normally do this, first of all. I think it's kind of obvious. Well, I hope it is. But also it's because I'm stood here looking at a tripod and pretending, well, no, can't say pretending, that's going to ruin the secret. No. I'm just looking ahead doing this. Maybe if someone was literally in my face and I went like that, then maybe it would have a different like effect. Sometimes though, it has been a bit awkward because when I've been holding this or I've been wearing the mask and I've been whipping someone outside in the garden next door, the neighbours have been outside and have seen me whipping, okay? Or at once when I was wearing the werewolf mask and they were there. But then again, if you're going to be nosy, then you might see more than what you want or bargain for. So, not my fault. Just like if you were very nosy, you decided to get a glass, put it up against the wall inside of a motel bedroom, and it's like, you don't like those sounds? We don't listen in. So it's like that. Anything else? I guess the other thing is, sometimes when it's done like very loosely, the whipping, you kind of zone out, because if you focused in and realised anyone can watch these videos, you might think, oh, that's kind of awkward. Oh, I don't want that person watching it. Oh, I don't want that person reacting to it. That could get a bit weird or a bit creepy. That's why you zone out, because if you don't zone out, it won't be natural. It won't have the same flow. Now, when someone like Turkey Steve, or Stephen, the turkey handler, was good enough at the time when he gave a super chat, so shout out to him, and then he said he wanted to be whipped. I mean, it's the least I could do at the time, so that's why I did it, and that was neutral, okay? Like the actual whipping part, it wasn't like weird or dodgy or anything like that. But sometimes when I do, well, most of the time in the live video premieres when I'm present watching, like how everyone else is, sometimes I do fall back in the chair and slide down and think, shit, did I really say that? Oh my God. And then the times where I've realised what's about to come next, and it's like, oh no, how are people going to respond to this? And I would say probably the worst times have been where I've incorporated a very serious or important topic about Dylan Rounds, and then I've added in a map analysis at the end, and people are still watching towards the end when it transitions over, and like the time when Ty Corbin was present and maybe some other people and maybe Salty Pancakes at one point and maybe Ellen Berg at another point, and it transitioned on over to either me whipping myself or I don't think my nipple has been pressed against the camera yet, so you're safe regarding that. But like going to Burger King's or the pizza place and it's like, wait, are we still watching the same video? And it's like, how are people going to react? Is this going to be very awkward? Is it going to go downhill? But luckily it hasn't, and it's been quite positive, because like even Ty Corbin, who can be serious at times, has returned back later into the video and said, oh, that was a good impression, or that was quite funny. And even Ellen Berg as well recently said, as for entertainment, what do you do? Well, this is it, okay? Ellen, do you need it? I don't know. But as for the map stuff, you know, you try and tie it in with one another, sometimes to the better engagement, but you split the video down in half, because if it crosses on over and you still apply it to Dylan, then it could be seen as insensitive and stuff. So that's why I say, right, we're moving on to the next thing now, completely unrelated. So that explains that. Now, what about for like other people, if it came to whipping? Well, if I know someone fairly well, or I've known someone longer, or, you know, like if someone has been watching my videos for some time, so someone like Christy or someone like Cleo, if I was to like whip them, and I don't mean like knock on their door and say, hello, would you like to get whipped today? Not like that, but like in this video now, and Like if who was the one that actually reiterated the question? It was actually Cleo at the time that said, so with all this stuff and whipping, how does it feel to you? What goes through your mind? Well, to answer that and to apply it to on the condition that there is a consistent viewer or a loyal viewer or someone who I may know a bit better than others, well, I don't know how to word it. It's not a negative feeling, but it's kind of a like a weird one. Because like other times it would have been like, come on, boy, keep going. But like if you've got someone innocent like Christy for most part of it, you know, I respect Christy. If you've got someone like Cleo who's, you know, very nice and has a very good personality and is very supportive, good person, it's like, why would I want to whip them? It doesn't seem right. I don't want to hurt Cleo. And obviously it's not real, this, it's like virtual, but it just seems weird. And obviously that makes me less of a psychopath and a serial killer, which I guess is a positive, but then to some it might disappoint them. But I'm sure I can get my crowbar out later and we can, you know, set the record. But no, it just seems weird whipping some people when they're good people, like Cleo. You know, she doesn't deserve to get whipped, right? It just doesn't seem right. Even like if it was real life, you don't want to whip someone like that. You don't want to hurt them unless they wanted it. Oh God, that sounds weird. That sounds like really dodgy. But you get what I'm saying. Now, if there's someone I don't like or there's been drama, you know, where people have caused trouble within the case, and when this was first introduced, it was like more of a motive, like, I don't care how they feel, they're gonna get that, aren't they? You know, to restore order, right? So there's less resistance there. There's less of, oh, who cares, just go at it. But someone that doesn't, who's more innocent, then it seems a bit weirder. But yeah, that side got very deep there. For now. Shit, this is long. Right, well, it's fine. We are going to go on to the map analysis right now. Don't worry, not forgotten about that. And we'll take a look at it. I don't know how deep we can get, but I just want to share with you the updated route. Okay, let's head on over now to Google Earth and check out the distance of Dylan's truck. Okay, so here we are, map time after a long period of me talking. I think I did break a record for talking that long without as much liquid intake, so there's a new personal best. So we look here, for the most part of it, it does look pretty similar, but I did change some of the numbers, the key ones. So we go over here to the makeshift notepad. The total still remains, from what Candice Cooley said, 65 miles. You could still question it and say maybe Candice Cooley is lying, even though she might be roughly estimating. You know, if you don't trust her in general, you know, that's still up for question. But yeah, if you remember last time, I think it was something like, was it like 13 miles from the farm to the classified place and back? Now it's 39 miles. That has changed drastically, right? But it's all because of this one down here. The one down here was originally like 52 miles, right? But we've halved it to 26. And the reason why is because it's not there and back. Originally, I included there and back. So from Lucin to Montello, Montello to Lucin. But I guess the way Candice Cooley was trying to tell the story of this distance made by Dylan's truck, whoever was driving it was driven to Montello. The payment was made, you know, whether it be like the food or like the gas, filling it up. And then from there, the moment that vehicle set off on its journey, wherever, which was Lucin, that's where the distance started ticking away and was counted, right? That's what we're doing briefly here. So we don't need to include Dylan going to this place to begin with, which would have been a Thursday. We're skipping to Friday, right? Because Dylan stayed here from Thursday to Friday, and it was later on during Friday in the day when he decided to return back to Lucin. to do his seeding late at night because of the rain forecast. And with his app on his phone, he likely checked it. And that's what encouraged him to go down there, even though it was late, right? So, which route did he take? Well, that's the thing. There might be different versions. I still want to stick with mine, though, just because it's the one I know best, okay? Coming down this way, crossing over the train tracks, which is just here, as it crosses over those two. And then coming round the bend. Yeah. And this is 26 miles still. Coming there, passing Lucin Pond, which is just there in the waterhole. Taking the back road, why am I speaking posh? Back road, and eventually crossing on over back to Dylan's farm, okay? You see? Now, Indiana mentioned about Tacoma Road. That's where Dylan went down. Possibly. I mean, if that's where he came across Chase Venstra, then must have occurred again going down that way. Where's Tacoma Road? Tacoma Road is this one here where it comes off from the main dirt road, right? This is Tacoma Road, this one here. But how would he get to Lucin if he turned off that way? Montello in the distance. Well, let's just follow the lines, the roads, the dirt path. Branches off, goes over that way. Keep on going over that way, you eventually reach Brenner's trailer, his burnt down one. Left here, we did take a look at it. Goes to a dead end. It comes round this like mountain or hill and then back here. And basically you've just done a loop all the way around for no reason. So that's what I'm trying to understand. When you're here, dead end, right? Dead end. You're not going to get your vehicle up there. If you go up here, doesn't even appear to be a proper dirt road. It looks more like water and it looks too thin. And that does look pretty steep, right? Just to drive all the way down. See the gradient? It just seems a bit extreme for a vehicle and unnecessary when you've got a dirt road nearby. And then once you get over, what? You suddenly start driving up there into the mountains? No. What? You just drive back down here and take a shortcut? That's what I don't understand. I don't know why you would go down Tacoma Road. Do you go so far down Tacoma Road and then go in a different direction? Does anyone know? Because it just seems a little bit confusing. Just try and flip the screen if it's possible for a second. Zoom out a bit. There we go. What's the point coming down here? You go over this way. Where's Patterson Pass? Is it here? Patterson Pass is here, right? If we just do a quick... this is very rough and on the spot, okay? So bear with me. Somewhere like there. Oh. Is it working? So like there, is it? Up Tacoma Road, then back down here. And then where's Patterson Pass? I can't see it on here because it's not 3D, but let's just say somewhere like that. Up and down, and then back to Dylan's farm. That's actually longer, 36 miles, and that's literally cutting right across 36 miles. That's a much longer route. So I don't know why he would have gone down Tacoma Road if that was a shortcut, because it doesn't look like a shortcut from the looks of it. Mine looks like the quickest route. Okay, so that's why I'll stick with it. 26 miles. Friday night, returning back to Dylan's farm, Dylan being in the truck, parking up at his farm, and then getting on with the farm work. 26 miles covered. The following day, grain truck used to get to the grain shed. And that was Dylan himself, parking it up. Then, supposedly walks all the way back, 5 miles to get back to his farm, hence why the phone ping is here. Okay. And then whatever happened after that, right? Something bad from the looks of it. The next phone ping being at Brenner's trailer, so something possibly happened, bad, got hurt, ambushed in the grain shed, something like that. And then somehow someone got hold of Dylan's truck and then started driving it about. So if 26 miles have been covered, and if you want to argue even less distance, and then we add that on to the remaining distance, it does make the radius of Dylan's whereabouts much more vague and not as precise as what we assumed beforehand. You remember? Beforehand, I was saying like a 6.5 mile radius. Now we're looking, I can't do mathematics on the spot, but half of 39 in terms of going there and back, a radius of that number, which is obviously greater than what we've previously said, significantly greater. Actually, I will remember 19.5 mile radius as described by these blue lines, which have been extended now. And when you look at these extended blue lines, they do reach over pretty far. And if you was to do it as well, if you was to add that blue line west, most definitely it would encroach onto the Montello side. Now, in terms of the phone radius in the past, if you remember, 15.4 mile radius, that was centered where about the final phone ping radius was originally always marked in this area, right? Which is how many miles from the grain shed? About 1.45 miles or something. And then the actual radius at that spot here, 15.4 mile radius, which when you do it on here, just roughly speaking, like that, that's already bordering into Montello, Nevada, right? And as you've seen with that blue line, the radius regarding where the truck may have gone to, bear in mind, Google Earth does not have a radius circle, hence why I'm doing it this way. What I said, 19.5, something like that. We're still in Montello, right? So then that would raise the question of, well, there's still a possibility that to cover 39 miles to total of 65 miles, then that truck must have been used to cover either a fair amount of distance, possibly bordering into a different state, a different town, maybe a different city during the process of disposing of Dylan. Because if it's been worded as it's all gone down by Candice Cooley, it all begins here, and like all the evidence points to this spot, right? But in recent time, Candice Cooley said, due to track marks and the recent search of a wash and the dirt on Dylan's truck, that's probably where he was taken to. There are several washes in the area, so we don't know which one exactly Candice was at. I don't know if it'll ever be revealed, but if so, that would help clear that up. Now, how many washes are within a 19.5 mile radius? You get what I'm saying? How many washes are in a 19.5 mile radius of Dylan's farm, right, where his truck was taken and also returned? So now it's like the same method as the phone ping and the radius regarding that. Don't you think it's a weird coincidence how Candice Cooley came out with that figure in the past regarding the phone radius as 15.4 miles radius regarding the phone ping, and then just recently in the latest interview on No Thanks channel with Candice Cooley clearly said that if they don't find Dylan within a certain period of time, in the spring or something, they're going to go arm in arm with the general public and do a straight walk for about 15.4 miles of the land. Isn't that interesting, coming out with the same exact figure? Or a similar one, close to it. Don't you think that's a little bit weird? Like, is this still referring back to the phone ping, the final phone ping? Because that's away from the grain shed. Or are you referring back to starting the walk and walking 15 miles from the grain shed in a certain direction? Like, once again, kind of contradictions, switching and changing, right? 15.4 miles here, 15.4 miles there. Like, which one? And as well, what you got to take in mind, if there is a wash nearby here, like, I don't know where the washes are, I'll be honest with you, I don't know. The only one I know is this long one here, but I don't think that's the one they've been searching in. So wherever the other wash is, provided it's within the area, you know, and it's not like all the way down here with that 19.5 mile radius thing, and it was much closer, then to cover 39 miles within a small space, you know, you're not going that far, first of all. So to total that 39 or whatever remaining miles left, you'd have to like either go round in circles, cover the same route. So like, what would be like a good example? Let's say someone got into the vehicle, drove down to here, turned off down this like road from the looks of it, and then stopped, turned off this way, and then stopped round about here. You've got like a big dirt mound there, or some kind of mound, and then you're almost encroaching onto the wash, or at least the end of the wash. Oh, I can't flip the image when in this mode. You see the brown stuff coming from the wash up that way near to the grain shed. So that could be one access point to it, and you got like a road or dirt road there. It might tail off. But that's only 4.76 miles. What about the remaining mileage? It is a total of 39 miles to cover, 4.76 there and back. It's nowhere near the total 39 miles, right? So what you'd have to do is like, oh, well, I'll just drive down here, drive down there, come down here, drive over this mountain. Well, that's over a mountain. That's not practical. Oh, there's a bit of a wash there. Oh, I just indirectly found another wash. That looks like another wash. Drive down here, pretending like you keep driving. You see that line? It's only like 5.6 miles. Still got to get to the 19 mile mark. So even if you did this and you went here, that's only 8 miles. My God. And let's say you drove all the way back to here. It might look very messy, but this is the point I'm trying to prove, right? Frantically driving all over the place. Going here. And maybe going back onto that road. Still not enough mileage, my God. And then eventually reaching here. Unfortunately, it's all the same colour, but if you exclude the original route, right, the 26 mile one, and you look at this like weird box and how it crosses over. So like, where did we begin originally? We begun here, okay? Someone got into the vehicle. This is just a dummy run. Turned right, went up here, turned left, went this way, went into the end part of the wash, drove down this way, went in and out, and then decided to go all the way up here to Sun Tunnels, then all the way up to this point near the grain shed, then came all the way down this way, back down, crossing over, and then coming back the way they came, but then coming down this way, then turning this way, then going back up that way, then passing some tunnels again, turning left, and then stopping at this point for whatever reason, and then repeating almost the same exact journey back, all the way back to Dylan's farm, all over the place, right? That would be there and back, total mileage 19.5. I think I'm correct in saying double that would be the 39 miles. No, oh my god, am I an idiot? That's not right. No, it's not. Oh fuck. No, I got that figure wrong, but you get what I'm saying. Okay? You get what I'm saying. Probably a little bit less or a little bit more. It's because I'm doing it on the spot. But you get the idea. If there are several washes, but the washes are nearby, right, as described, as said before, then to cover 39 miles, you got to be going round and round in circles to cover that distance, or you go on and drive the vehicle elsewhere to other places in between. Would you go to Don Hateley's barbecue in Dylan's vehicle? Would you take Dylan's vehicle down to Wendover, maybe, or Montello, and then come all the way back? Probably not. So how could that 39 miles worth of distance have been covered in other ways? Do any of you know? Do you get what I'm saying? It just... You know, at the end of the day, it could well be Candice Cooley has come out with an inaccurate figure, and basically what she means by 65 miles results to a vague, back to the beginning from what we already knew, of a vast area to cover. So even with those numbers and information and estimates, it doesn't really help. Unless it does, but because they've not revealed certain information, it's more confusing to us. Hence why, if for whatever point, ever reason, if there's like an update, right? If there ever is an update of the actual wash investigated, I will then immediately do a follow-up video, mapping it out once again, probably removing some of the markers which get in the way, like the blue one and the red one. And then literally just measuring the distance of, okay, we'll drive down here to get to that wash, the area described by Candice, and then return back. Does that total the 39 miles? Yes or no? And then find out from there. All in all though, I just wanted to make this video and update it so there was corrections made, because you don't want to leave things open-ended and hanging about. That doesn't really help. So hopefully that's, resolved that issue here. Okay, so hopefully that did help. It was a bit longer, this video, especially the beginning part, because there was some deep questioning. But, as I said, those questions, if you want to share them about, you want to spread the awareness regarding them on other channels, comment sections, live chats, feel free to do so. And maybe someday they might come up in an interview, right? Feel free to. And hopefully that map correction did help you in some way or another. Now, you might be wondering, why is this on my head? It's not for compression, no. It's just because when I was narrating, doing that map analysis, I was leaning back on the bed. Well, I was leaning on the gorilla as some kind of neck back support. Didn't really help. But then my hand was on my head, and then it messed up with my hair. And it went bad, bit of a bad hair day. So this helps conceal it, yeah. So if anyone can put my hair back in shape and reattach it properly, sounds a bit weird, then that'd be appreciated. But yeah, that's it for now with the Dylan Rounds video. Hopefully you found it interesting. We'll see what happens next. We'll see if any predictions come true, like what I said in this video, as in some questions, and then take it from there. And I think the next video will be on Gorilla Jack, unless there's some other update or something even more important, then I'll have to rearrange it, okay? So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye and good night.